The King of the Battlefield Chapter 251. Oscar was a probate sorcerer. There were less than 10 honorary sorcerers in the entire territory. Only those, who were extraordinary in sorcery within each tribe, could rise to that position. Oscar hasn't yet reached that level of sorcery. Furthermore, unfit position was a shortcut to a short life. No. Human resource manager position would suffice. Are you sure that would be sufficient? Yes, in fact, that would be more than enough. As soon as he let out those words, he felt a sting inside. It was because that was the same thing as having committed to play the Merlin's role. Bi Seung-min nodded his head. Do your best to come up with the most detailed image of Merlin that you know. I'll take care of the rest. That's how the Great Khan has commenced. The territory has prospered. It was because Muyeong's influence still remained even though he wasn't there. Every tribe has gathered. Those tribes, which were tired of fighting, needed their own places, or were weak and sought equality. As long as they had promised to not cause a stir, everyone was welcomed. Then they were protected and given their own land on which they could become self-sufficient. In return, the promise had to be absolutely kept. Those who caused disharmony were firmly annihilated. They made good examples out of them. That was Augur's role. Bolter, the fire giant, that was, Augur who has become the chief of the place. As he, who was the top predator, was in charge, there was no possibility of any disharmony. However, it wasn't that he was always very strict. Grow the strength in your wrist. A sword is not wielded simply by strength alone. Augur was different than Bolter, who wasn't flexible at all. He insisted on being the instructor and taught how to use weapons to others. As he did not have any reservations when it came to learning what he didn't know, he was also learning many kinds of military warfare. He had both the refinement of a tribe chief and the passion for self-teaching. And, he did not hesitate to transfer those techniques to others, either. As a result, all sorts of tribes approached Augur to be taught by him. That number has already passed 1,000. The harmonization of other tribes. The understanding that such was possible was realized by watching Muyeong. Someone thought about it, but none put it into action. The incredibly strong demon tribes. How could they who fought each other for survival create harmony? Even if they were to come together, disharmony was expected. However, Muyeong was a strong leader. Muyeong's underlings weren't pushovers, either. There were many who put their lives on Muyeong's words alone. Furthermore, Augur considered Muyeong to be a true friend. He wanted to emulate Muyeong. Even the bolters need to be changed. It isn't possible to survive alone. Augur took the lead in that. He had the critical role of teaching them, and bringing them to understanding. The demon tribes were hunting indiscriminately. Recently, the number of immigrants who wanted to enter the territory has grown exponentially. The problem was that the number was growing greatly by the day. It was because the demon tribes and demon gods were moving in earnest. As if they had grudges against every tribe, but the demon tribes, they were killing everyone. Many have lost their homes, trying to avoid him. Even the bolters could not escape from that influence. Augur has been recently feeling very strongly that unless powers were combined, there would be no hope. Sir Augur. It was then. Bi Seung-min came to pay him a visit. Augur stopped in his tracks. Enough, we will have a short break. 1,000 students nodded their heads. You've returned. I've heard the news. So, what brought you here? There was no way that Bi Seung-min would pay him a visit for no reason. Communication was possible. It was a fortunate thing for Bi Seung-min. There was a message from the master. Bi Seung-min would speak informally, even to Takan, but only to Augur. He kept his formality. Augur is a friend of Muyeong. Friends are on an equal plane. Therefore, Augur, too, wasn't someone that Bi Seung-min could speak informally to. A message? That's new. The master would like to see you join the war. Join the war. Please lead everyone who can possibly be mobilized and start a war, throughout the territory, with every tribe other than the demon tribes. All bolters, along with my students. Yes, he wants you to conquer them by absorbing those who lose. Augur swooped his chin. An earnest prelude to a great war. That was what B. Seungmin was talking about. The true conquering war by Mueang has begun. The request was for Augur to start that. This was a very dangerous proposal. After conquering many areas with his troops, there might not be a good solution should Augur develop a different idea. It was possible as trust was there as the very fundamental prerequisite. After having increased the territory, wasn't a good justification needed for a war. It would be freedom from every control. Freedom from control? That's hypocritical. Ultimately, everyone will be under Mueang's control. Translations by Asian Hobbyist website. Overthrow Baal. Including Gremory and a few demon gods will help us. Demon gods? Augur was shocked. Mueang. He has truly reached out even to the demon gods. If only Baal could be overthrown, if that possibility existed, there were many who would accept another control. My master has destroyed demon gods Dantalian and Larija. He has obtained their powers and authorities, and preparing an attack on Baal, along with demon gods who oppose Baal. Ha, he's gone mad. He has really started something. Augur trembled. That bastard has finally taken out demon gods. The one who was definitely a weakling when he had first met has developed to reach such a level. It was hard to believe. However, B. Seungmin had no reason to lie. If it was true, Augur could not just stay put idly. Overthrow Baal. Haha. It wasn't possible to think of that even in the dreams. Furthermore, the fact that he has intended to join forces with those opposing demon gods could have never been thought of. No more time was needed for consideration. With slightly flushed face, Augur smiled softly. I'll gladly take the lead. Now, Mueang wasn't alone. He had hands and feet that would move for him. And very trustworthy ones, at that. A turbulence that will shake up the demon world in Mueang's territory was starting. Chapter 252. Having come out of the spring, Mueang took the time for self-reflection as he dressed. Many things have been attained by killing Larija. More had been harvested than expected. Unlike having taken little bit of divinity and memory from Dantalian, Larija left an enormous number of gifts. First of all, Mueang looked over his titles. The Demon God Hunter. Title Demon God Hunter, all stats plus 60, increase by 30 each time a demon god is extinguished. Evolutionary title. It was much better than the Rejector, all stats plus 20, the one that was held previously. It would not be too much to call it the ultimate title. It seemed that 60 has been allotted since both Dantalian and Larija were hunted. In other words, with each victory, Mueang would become exponentially stronger. Justice Enforcement, King Slayer. They were the supporting capabilities in terms of proving that winning was the only meaning of Mueang's existence. Furthermore, they were the ones that leveled up, due to the effects of Mueang's victories. Effects of victory: Sword God / Sword Ghost's strength, you become a Sword God or a Sword Ghost. Star of Essence, S+++, all stats plus 50, King Slayer, S+++, Wisdom and Intelligence plus 50, Mantra Effect, Ruler of Flames, S++, all pure capabilities plus 40, Death Lord, S, Power of Death plus 50, Strengthen Undead based on the level of Art of Death 0.1% per 4, 12.5% on the basis of 500, Dragon Slayer, plus, Wisdom Intelligence plus 15. Dragon's Natural Enemy, 10 Strength Increase. Ruler of Dakibus, Gremory's Anguish, S, all stats plus 15, Victor of Demons, A, increase the power of death that rules the deceased and devil powers by 10, Soulmate, B+, when spirit assimilates with undead, the affected undead's capability increases by little, Murloc's descendant, B+, growth of Murloc's quickens. Fairy's blessing, B, fairies feel closeness. Dwarf's sworn friend, B, dwarfs feel closer. Devil hunter, B++, raises the probability of getting crystallization by hunting demons. Sum of 14 victories effects. All stats plus 65, pure capabilities plus 40, intelligence plus 55, wisdom plus 55, power of death plus 60, strength plus 10. Two things have changed in big fashion. The Star of Essence and Grimoire's Anguish. Looks like the change took place by obtaining the Guide's Star and earning the recognition from Grimoire. If it was a random reward, then it was random. However, those random things were among the strongest weapons that Muyong had. That was, he attempted to gain all the powers he could and, in fact, he has succeeded. When all those weapons and the abilities of the skills were added up, then no one would even come close to Muyong when it came to capability. Muyong rotated the dial further on his status viewer and examined the remaining ones. Occupational effect: Death Lord, Lord Class, King Slayer, Lord Class, Great Angel, Lord Class. Capabilities: Strength 1,059, 585 plus 474, Agility 827, 398 plus 429, Stamina 816, 401 plus 415, Intelligence 850, 385 plus 465, Wisdom 880, 355 plus 525, Attack 802, 397 plus 405, Magic Resistance 885, 240 plus 645, Spirit Ability 855, 410 plus 445, Evil Tendency 950, 555 plus 395, True. Divine Powers 861, 516 plus 345, True. Fire Attributes 805, 460 plus 345, Sum of all levels, 877. Special note: Lucifer's power has been sealed. Gabriel's power has been inherited. You are creating the Muyong sword. Gabriel's spear has been engraved into your heart. Power of divinity has been inherited. Weapons currently using and wearing: Anguish, all stats plus 15, Strength plus 75, Intelligence plus 45, Fighting Aura plus 30, 3 of 12 archery sets, all stats plus 30, Magic Resistance plus 140, Power of Death plus 40, Agility plus 50, Immortal King's Breastplate, Strength plus 15, Attack plus 30, Stamina plus 50, Magic Resistance plus 80, Hermes's Boots, Agility plus 30, Wisdom Propensity equals 50, Skull Accessory, Strength plus 19, Agility plus 4, Night King's Greaves, all stats plus 40, Loyalty, Wilderness Set, Magic Resistance plus 80, Intelligence Wisdom plus 20, Starlight, Star of the Absolute, all stats plus 20. It might look messy because so many things have been attained, but the important thing was the increase in the capabilities. The sum of the levels, in the 800s. Muyong was walking on a path of which no one in the history of mankind has ever dreamed of. Especially, what he has shown the most increases were in the areas of divinity and evil tendency. The power has been greatly increased after absorbing the divinity of Larija. And taking his and Dantalian's divinity has pushed up the evil tendency. A 4-digit strength level has been reached. Wow, 1,049. Although he thought that an increase has been observed, he did not feel it personality as he has yet to use the power. Muyong wanted to dig deeper into the exact explanation of divine power. Divine power, the user's base stats strength increases by 1.5 folds. It was the incredible authority that could increase the base stats for strength by 1.5 folds. It wasn't a simple 1.5 fold. The more the base stats increased, the more its boost increased. There was no skill that increases base stats by multiples. It was possible only by authority. It was the moment that the awesome power of Larija was being understood. Still not sufficient. However, it was insufficient. Defeating Larija was a fluke. He had barely defeated him by draining his power with heavenly interventions, and at the end taking several gambles. Had there been even a single failure, it would have been Onhu who had faced a defeat. In his current condition, going against low-level demon gods would be possible, but facing the demon gods in the high echelon would be impossible. He needed to hunt other demon gods and grow stronger by absorbing their powers and authorities. In order to do that, Gremory is needed. Gremory was the leader of the resistance. As a unique female demon god, she received the support of the remaining 4 demon gods for being an excellent defender. Muru, Porneus, Citri, Asmodee. Translations by Asian Hobbyist website. If all of their powers were combined, it wouldn't be impossible to bring Onhu's ideas to reality. The problem was, would they concur with Gremory's proposal? The chance of disagreeing will be high. No matter how long those demons have been following Gremory, the demon race held the unique arrogance of the demon race. Join forces? There was no way that they would accept mutually assisting of one another, as equals. The opinion of the opposition has always been, let those races that will become slaves live to begin with, but never let's treat them equally. However, they must come to understand the reality. From here on, Onhu's position was critical. The potential of I, the being. The memory of Dantalion, the divinity of Larija. And the powers of Gabriel and Lucifer which Onhu had. The Onhu sword that reached the 51st level. And Ars Nova on top of that. Furthermore, the fact that Onhu was a human. Onhu had countless weapons. If he was to earn the trust of Gremory, then it would be equivalent to like having donned several wings. Chapter 253. This is important from this moment on. Form an alliance with Gremory. He had finally jumped over a hurdle. A strategy must be well formed. Even if he was to earn the agreement from the demons, it still wouldn't be that he had the agreements from other transcendental beings. It would require too much time to pay them visits in person. By commissioning a number of trusted lieutenants, he would have them to come to him. And Onhu had one person whom he thought could be that trusted lieutenant. The Dragon King, Han Sung. He is the right man. If he had the trusts of the Dragon Kings, attracting the transcendental beings would be easier for him, too. The owner of all mountains, the king of all dragons, the child of the moon. It was told that every one of them had the power to oppose the demons. Under certain circumstances, they were even stronger than the demons, such that even the demons couldn't encroach on their territories. In fact, Onhu has never seen them. Therefore, the Dragon King Hansung should be the best person as he knew them well. Seraphina and Pendragon must know how to find him. Onhu did not forget those two. Seraphina, who was a cult interrogator, had relationships with Hansung since young, and Pendragon, who became a Seraphina's knight, was Hansung's apprentice. If it was those two, they would certainly know how to locate Hansung. Bring in the people, too. Bring in the large cities, Malalan, Kunya province, and all others, then create an arena of competition. Humanity could not be left out. Although their experience levels weren't to his liking, wars provided innovative ways of becoming stronger. Of course many will be killed, but if they were to not fight, everyone would get killed anyway. Furthermore, only with their alliance, the conditions of extinction for certain demons would also be satisfied. The more the people were mobilized, the more options would be available for Onhu to utilize them. And fortunately, there was the right individual who was perfect for bringing them together. Bi Sungmin. Upon calling his name, a circle shape materialized on the floor and Bi Sungmin jumped out of it. It was the Temple of Gremory. Officially, only Onhu was allowed to be inside, but at his discretion, Onhu called upon one more person. It was so that he could ensure that the work can be carried out in secrecy. Have you summoned me? Onhu spoke quietly to Bi Sungmin. Call Enrith, the Iron King, and Sora, the Demon King of Roses, and go to Malalan. Is there a need to call upon Enrith and Sora? He was asking if it was possible by himself, be Sungmin, alone. Unlike Takan, he does not wield 10,000 dragons. Just Malalan. When needed, be Sungmin could prepare it all by himself, but Myung wanted certainty. You have many things to do. You will need many strong hands. I will follow your orders. After locating Han Sung, get in touch with Malalan and make them follow Myung. If Malalan was to mobilize, then the great city and Kunya province would also mobilize. And if the three largest cities of humanity were to mobilize, everyone would have to come together. Certainly, it was necessary to minimize any chance of Myung or Be Sungmin from being exposed during that process. At any rate, Myung had a precedence of attacking them in the past. It was to raise their alertness, but it was best to eliminate any potential for provoking their rage. It would be sufficient for only Han Sung and Gremory to be visible to others. Myung needed to manipulate them in the shadows and set inescapable traps for the enemy. The intermediate contact point will be my territory. You have to work as fast as possible. I will make full use of my abilities. It meant that he would use the abilities which were related to death, in gathering the humanity together. All the keys were with Malalan and Han Sung, so the determination that he would execute the mission even by killing the Pope or making Han Sung the undead was understood. Myung did not add any unnecessary words. Myung recognized of Be Sungmin's abilities, also. In addition, he was more cautious and cool-headed than anyone else. If Be Sungmin has made such a decision, it was important to respect that. The joining of other remaining races. Aligning Dakibus, the Bolters, and Dwarfs would be easy, but moving very fast was necessary if other small races, including the Elves, were to be gathered. Be Sungmin, alone, was not sufficient. An appropriate talent. There was one, but whether he would obey Myung was questionable. An, the High Elf. Come to think of it, Myung seemed to have everything that he needed. Myung drew a picture. Only the outlines were completed at this juncture, though. When the picture completes, it would be the new dawn for the heaven and earth. After finishing the treatment, he left the temple. At the same time, countless number of demon eyes stared at Myung. The newly appeared demon king, the Ash Grey. The scene of personally crushing Larija still remained in their heads. Myung surveyed the surroundings. They look like they do not approve of me. Although he was being revered, he was not trusted. That's what their eyes told. Countless numbers of demon kings and demon races have been waiting for Myung to come out. And reverence without trust only resulted in suspicion. Demon King of the Ash Grey. I am Oculus, the Demon King of the 24th Legion. I challenge you to a duel. Although they knew that they could not win if they have seen the battle with Larija, the demons and the Demon Kings wanted something more concrete, a definite proof. It was true that unless one has direct experience, he would not know it for sure, and they were operating under the guise of what if there is a 1 in 10,000 chance. Myung raised his shoulders. Before the opposing demons were to arrive here, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to have cleaned up the area's vicinity, first. I do not know how to go easy. The problem was that this was the truth. After attaining the skills, he hasn't had the chance to practice how to control his powers. It was very possible that like the demon races that were obliterated by Larija's punches, they could meet the same fate. It doesn't matter. If your power was real. Myung nodded his head. In fact, the Demon King that abruptly sprang forward aspired to become the closest ally of Gremory. No wonder that there would only be aggression. Flap. Translations by Asian Hobbyist website. Myung opened up his wings wide. No need to delay taking care of such problems. Oculus, is there anyone else other than you? That is, those who do not trust me or resent me. There was no way that there wasn't any more. Their eyes turned more vicious. Myung twisted up the end of his lips and flipped his finger. Come at me all at once. You arrogant bastard. They did not refuse. The demon races were known to be the races which were incapable of understanding the word, honor. Nearly 1,000 demons, including the 5 demon kings, all bared their teeth toward Muyong. Muyong did not even take out the anguish. It was so that he could practice how to control his powers given this opportunity. Kwaong. And at the moment that Muyong threw his first punches, they came to a realization. The demon king of the Ash Grey. That he was not an ordinary demon king. That he was in a class of his own. Chapter 251, The Transcendental Beings, 3. He dreamed. For Muyong, this was a waking dream. He was levitating in the air, and below, he saw the Earth. Earth. A blue planet. The place, in which, he had existed under a different name, rather than as Muyong. However, this memory belonged to Dantalian. The scattered fragments Muyong had stolen from Dantalian has become a vivid memory. Is this from absorbing Laraja's power? What was certain was that ever since Laraja's power had been absorbed, there were bits and pieces of images. This was the first time that they have manifested as a vivid dream, like this. Muyong approached for a closer look. Smoke rose from many places. Machines that looked like giant spiders were destroying the world. They looked very familiar. Muyong knew as to what they were. Elersigo. Although he saw similar videos when he handled the Elersigo for the first time, they weren't vivid, like this. Finally, Muyong focused on a person. Dantalian, when he was still a human being. Save me. Everyone had died. Family, friends, everyone. The Elersigo's attack came out of the blue. Suddenly appearing one day, they quickly began to destroy the world. Humanity wasn't able to fight back. This was the time when the end of humanity was at hand. The small number of people who had survived went into hiding. However, it did not last long. A countless number of gates simultaneously opened up from everywhere. Composed of dark clouds, the gates enveloped the pitifully few survivors. It was the same for Dantalian. For him, what was different from the others was that he met Baal at the place where he ended up. There was no one else. Dantalian was in a place of complete darkness. There was a gigantic, horrifying and revolting monster. Beside it was a woman, with angelic wings, confined inside a spherical metal cage. The angel appeared haggard. Halfway collapsed, she was dying. However, something like that did not immediately catch Dantalian's eyes. You, who are you? The angel of time has chosen you. How do I appear to you? The monster's words could not be resisted. Dantalian was compelled to speak the truth as to what he saw. A monster with 2 mouths. OOP. Dantalian quickly covered his mouth. But, it was too late already. They are the mouths of truth and lies. This power will fit you. A book was in Baal's hands. Lemegeten. He tore off a page from it. Immediately, a countless number of bats came forth and engulfed Dantalian. Kaa. The dream ended there. However, what would have happened next didn't need to be seen to know. James, the human, has turned into the demon god Dantalian. Baal was involved. He, himself, held the Lemegeten. Baal had made the demon gods. The first demon god. Perhaps, he might not be a human. All the other demon gods were humans. However, it would not have been possible for an ordinary human being to have possession of Lemegeten. Perhaps, the source of every demon god might have been Baal. The true demon god. That was, the true god with real divinity. It has become clear that Solomon had attacked humanity. Muyong summarized the dream. Although it was short, it told a very important tale. With that, a small curiosity has been satisfied. It was certain that Solomon had cleansed the humans. There was still the question of why, but it was clear that Solomon was not on the side of justice. More importantly, Angel of Time. Baal had confined the Angel of Time. And he had told Dantalian that the Angel of Time had chosen him. There was some kind of qualification to becoming a demon god. A memory that provides more in-depth information is needed. Baal and Solomon. They were the two main characters. A complete memory was needed in order to know beyond that. By attaining the powers of the demon gods through hunting them, the memory will become complete. Larija had also had such a dream. One would know a lot more if one can attain the powers of the demon gods. Keek. Myung turned his head. A demon, which was guarding the front of the door, has opened the door and entered. Oh, demon king of the ash grey, all the demon gods have gathered. I'll take you to the assembly. The grand assembly. There were already 5 demon gods gathered here. Thank you everyone for coming. Muru, Porneus, Sithri, Asmodee, and Gremory. They all had very serious looks on their faces. It was because they have also heard of the demises of Ors and Larija. Asmodee, the earth demon god whose body was made of stones, was the first one to rise up and speak. What the heck is going on? Larija, that warlord has been defeated. I will explain everything. Please take a seat. Gremory responded calmly. Her presence there calmed the ambience of the assembly, yet curiosity was too strong. A battle that couldn't be won was won. This warranted an explanation. As Asmodee took his seat, Gremory spoke. Solomon, he has appeared. Solomon. Wasn't it that he wasn't able to return to the demon world? There was a commotion. It was inevitable. The Solomon who caused the demon gods to gnash their teeth. Although Myung did not know all the details, but he, at least, knew that the relationships between them were very complicated. Myung was at the back among several demon kings. Chapter 255. It was a forum for only those who were trusted by the demon gods, yet extraordinarily, Myung was able to attend. As it was Myung who had planned it in the first place, it was a natural thing, if anything could be said to be natural. All veterans. Hiding his energy, Myung examined their faces. Someday, it was possible that he might have to face them as adversaries. And this was the best opportunity to study the demon gods. There was definitely a difference between learning through Dantalian's dreams and through direct personal encounters. Furthermore, the energies of the 4 demon gods were not ordinary, either. If he was to simply compare their divinity only, they would be similar to Larija's. They, indeed, looked like the ones who have endured the coalition faction's persistent assaults. The cunning eyes. As they weren't hiding their own energies, their auras were sharp. It appeared obvious even without engaging them. Such individuals were neglecting the challenging times that Gremory was facing. Of course, it probably wasn't easy for them to mobilize. However, they did not help Gremory from Larija's threats. They haphazardly gathered only after verifying the demises of Ors and Larija. Most likely, they probably thought that it would be tough for Gremory to withstand it. Possibly, they were monitoring the coalition faction's side and were looking for the right time. The wind has changed directions. They probably gathered, thinking that way. Their movements were quick. Everyone gathered within only about 10 days. In other words, they weren't to be completely trusted. Even Gremory, probably, also knew that too well. She wasn't expecting their help in the first place, anyway. They seemed really curious. They were sensing that Gremory must have something with which she ended the battles with Larija and Ors. However, with the mentioning of the name Solomon, they were taken aback. Muru, the skinny demon who was dressed in light black, spoke. Solomon. He really appeared in the demon world. Taking some time, Gremory spoke. He was the one who also destroyed Ors and Larija. To be precise, he and Diablo. The appearance of Diablo. Even they had ears to hear. They already knew about the fact that Diablo had incinerated Ors with fire. But, they didn't realize that Solomon was involved in the shadows. Was it Solomon who was the involved third party? But then, why Gremory, why are you whole? He and I have made a deal. A deal, a deal. You made a deal with a thug. That is disappointing. He would want our destruction. The demon gods protested. Although everything was going as it was scripted, the hatred towards Solomon was beyond Muyeong's expectation. Gremory responded calmly. Solomon wasn't able to move directly. Instead, he was controlling Diablo. Perhaps, the effects of the Lemegitans books seemed to be setting limits on him. Everyone shut their mouths and attentively listened to Gremory. Business was business and personal business was personal. It was very upsetting for them, yet they were curious about the real story. His ultimate objective was elimination of Baal. He said that he would step down once the one, who stole the book of Lemegitan, was punished. Simply put, he would only attack the coalition faction. Those who believed in Baal were the coalition faction. Gremory's faction was those who came out against his position. Naturally, they did not have many reasons to oppose to Baal's elimination. Muru asked again. So Ors and Larija were eliminated? And hoped that we would join. That's right. However, afterwards? I don't think he would leave us alone. Wasn't there already a precedent? By precedent, it meant the erasing of the humanity from the face of the earth. Gremory closed her eyes briefly. He had conditions. Not to leave the demon world. Not to increase the population of demons. Everyone was again silent. It was the first time that Muyeong has heard about this, yet this would not be believed to be a lie. It was because Ors wasn't eliminated and Solomon would expect nothing in return. Even if I didn't propose it first, the plan had been to stir up the anti-coalition faction. It seemed that Gremory has been planning exactly the same thing as what Muyeong had proposed. Would she have said the same words here even without Muyeong's presence? All that Muyeong did was that he has added the concept of uniting every tribe. Certainly, it was more complex. He kept himself on his toes. Gremory knew much more. If he was to be swept away by Gremory, he would lose his leadership. Intelligence was Muyeong's power. However, it wasn't at that moment. Dantalian's memory has been becoming perfect little by little. By taking in more of the demon god's powers, the ability to recall the memory would become more complete. It felt like that he would reach that truth after eliminating few demon gods and absorbing their powers. The scattered memory of Dantalian was becoming more vivid after absorbing the divinity of Larija. Would it be accepted? The truth would come out in the process of working things out. Muyeong's immediate interest was on their choice. It would be very degrading if what Gremory was saying was the truth. In an ordinary situation, not accepting it would be normal. If it is that, it doesn't seem too bad. If there is a definite trust with respect to the deal. The opposite was the result. Muyeong couldn't help but cringe in response to this part. Despite the fact that it was a very degrading deal, their attitude was that they would accept the terms. Even though a common enemy, it appeared that the natural fear of Solomon seemed to be lingering on, or the memory of their enemy when they were humans has not been erased. Unlike the coalition faction, the anti-coalition faction's principle was that it didn't matter even if they remained in the demon world. There is a being that has his trust. Gremory turned her attention. Muyeong was at the other end of her attention. It is Muyeong, the demon king of Ash Grey. Every demon god's eyes turned to Muyeong. This was not part of the script. Ha! He exclaimed inwardly. At the same time, Muyeong understood. This was a test, an ordeal, and a chain that would bind him. Gremory, you will not permit things to go only my way. Chapter 252, The Transcendental Beings, 4. Muyeong did not lose his cool. He has not, even once, ever thought that everything would go as planned. The variability of the world. Murphy. The future has already changed, and was in the process of changing. It was only that Muyeong tried all he could to control the changes. It was the same this time around. Can't just take this lying down. Gremory's meaning was clear. Rather than allowing him to remain as a hidden manipulator, she planned to draw attention to him by revealing his identity before all. By making them think about the implications of being a Solomon's underling, the objective was, in fact, to prevent Muyong from acting beyond his authority. At the same time keep Muyong within her influence, so Muyong's abilities could be fully exploited. If Muyong failed to come up with a viable solution for the situation she just put him in, Gremory would mock him. She might have already prepared a response, just for such a case. However, Gremory could not rest easy. It was because it meant that Muyong's ability to improvise to a situation was only at this level. That was, that Muyong's ability to deceive and scheme would be insufficient to con the demon gods. He would be useless to her if he was incompetent. Only one move. So much was riding on this one move. I'll play along. Muyong came forward. The 5 anti-coalition faction members turned their attentions to Muyong. Those eyes. They were filled with both resentment and interest. The look of the demon gods resembled hunters who would immediately devour their prey, should the slightest weakness be shown. On the other hand, if strength was to be demonstrated, what would happen if he was the representative of a power that was beyond their imagination? Muyong has seen the answer just a moment ago. They have rationalized their acquiescence to the degrading, one-sided deal with Solomon. Demon gods. Although they were called that, their origins was that of mere humans. Ultimately, it was the outcome of the limitations of being created gods. Weak to the strong and strong to the weak. There was only one conclusion. Do not show weaknesses. If he was to play along, do a good job of it. Glad to meet you. I'm Muyong. The tone and posture. Everything was that of a strong one. He displayed the aura of looking down upon the weak from a position of strength. The response from the demon gods weren't that friendly. Your arrogance is piercing through the sky. Are you saying that you are a follower of Solomon? Is that why you wanted to keep a watch on us? Muru asked. He appeared to be the most extreme among the gathered ones. Muyong sneered with total sincerity. Follower of Solomon? Ha! Why would I follow such a one as Solomon? He scoffed at the demon gods who feared Solomon. Muyong was above their ferocious attention, his attitude expressing disdain at their limits. In fact, it didn't matter to Muyong as to what Solomon was. If Solomon was the ultimate hidden adversary, Muyong would also cut off his head. Likewise, there is no reason for me to pay attention to you, either. Mere-made gods are not enough for our interests. You bastard, have you forgotten where you are? With the exception of Gremory, all the other demon gods began to show killing intent. Even if they were made gods, they have ruled and became strong over a long periods of time. Would there be any entity, within the demon world, which would survive those 4 demon gods' murderous looks? Deadly rage. They've killed, and killed often. However, such ferocity did not work on Muyong. It was because Muyong was murder incarnate. Instead, Muyong caused a separation. Lucifer's power of the devil. Gabriel's power of the angel. As the two have separated, the wings turned black and the spear of Gabriel appeared in Muyong's hands. This energy. The power of angel. The demon gods stood up at once. It was because they felt the power of the ultimate opposites. Like the venom of the cobra. Their instinct warned them and their bodies automatically stood up in respect to Muyong's power. Act of degradation. Although they immediately recovered their seats, the wrath was visible on their faces. On the other hand, Gremory showed unexpected look in her eyes. The power of Gabriel used when battling Larija. She did not expect to see it being demonstrated before the demon gods. Depending on the situation, Muyong could, in fact, be killed here. This was that big of a gamble. Muru spoke. It isn't that the fake deity that Merlin had made. Fake deity that Merlin had made? Did they mean the kind of powers that the priests were using? Momentarily, Muyong threw the question to the side. This was not the time to debate that. Instead, he spoke very leisurely. As if to say that their disbelief wasn't worth his concern. I'm the one that never fell from grace. I am the Archangel Gabriel. He has to become the Archangel in a hurry. It wasn't a lie. After all, he did have the power of the Archangel Gabriel. Muru replied immediately. Archangel? Archangel Gabriel? No way. There are no angels in the demon world. Furthermore, you bastard, are a human. When there are no angels, how do you recognize angels? Myung hit back. They claimed that there were no angels in the demon world. However, if there were truly no angels, how could they recognize an angel? Myung recalled the dream. There was an angel. They knew it, having seen that angel. Myung continued. There are certainly angels in the world that you call the demon world. The angel of time. The unfortunate angel who was captured by Baal, that is. Muru closed his mouth. The other demon gods are also silent. Intel is power. It wasn't possible to beat the demon gods when it came to the absolute quantity of information. Chapter 257. However, Myung was confident when it came to the quality of his information. With this, Myung has clearly established himself. The eyes of the demon gods, staring at Myung, have also begun to change. Myung drove in a wedge. Did you say that I'm a follower of Solomon and watcher of the demon gods? I'm not. We are the watcher of Solomon. Our duties are to watch the bastard's unexpected changes and control it. I have been only hiding myself all this time, having the body of a human, the power of a demon god, and with the power of an archangel. Rather than a made god, but a watcher of the real god. Myung's words were checkmate. Even they could not have fathomed such a response. However, there were more than one hidden thorn in Myung's words. Did you say? Muru asked with seriousness. Myung's claim. If Myung was the real Archangel Gabriel, then there were others. Angels. Or archangels. The angel of time that Baal has captured. Als Paulina, too, had the divinity of an archangel. Furthermore, despite having performed miracles, Als Paulina was killed in the end. If archangels have come down into the demon world, it would be an emergency situation for the demon gods. It was certain that Baal would never reveal this situation. They bought it halfway. Even Gremory's eyes were trembling. She, too, seemed to be confused. That was because Myung's words carried too much information, to be coming from a simple human. Mixing lies with truths in the cleverest way. Dantalian. Furthermore, Myung had Dantalian's memory. Wasn't causing confusion with lies and truths the skill of Dantalian. It is as you are guessing. As I'm the only one who did not fall from grace, I have revealed myself. Have you become Gremory's Demon King in order to watch Solomon? Oh, Ash Grey. Muru said with a sharp sparkle in his eyes. Not all the questions have been answered. The Demon King of Ash Grey. The great monarch who leads hundreds of thousands of troops. Myung was seated at the same table as him. If he was truly an archangel, and surveillance was the objective, then his coming has been too loud. However, this situation has already turned toward Myung. The wind was blowing in Myung's way. Solomon and Gremory had made contact. My coming here was a necessity. Furthermore, Solomon wants to eliminate Baal, and we also want this war to be over quickly. I was given the authority to end this war quickly. To end the war quickly? Poos. The table has rotted into dust. It was because Muru was tightly holding on to the table. He was nervous. Muru was one of the 72 high demon gods. He wasn't alone. Everyone was having trouble adapting to this sudden change. It was like they were being blown away by the winds of a hurricane. They were revered with every form of fear and respect, but because of that, they could not deal with changes. Muru spoke arduously. This place is not the world of true meaning. The angel of time only came due to special circumstances. How did an angel come into Solomon's world? A change has come. Myung was reticent. A change. That could be the appearance of Diablo, or Myung's travels back into the time itself. However, this short response made many inferences possible. This was, for them to think on their own and be convinced. However, based on Muru's reply, Myung, too, was taking in more information, and making inferences as well. Solomon's world. Solomon had attacked the earth. He had exterminated humanity. Towards the end, gates manifested as giant black holes, and absorbed the remnants of humanity. Dantalion had met Baal at the end. However, only 71 had received special benefit. What had happened to the rest of the people? The Blue Temple. Most of the people opened their eyes there. Merlin manages the Blue Temple. In some ways, the possibility of Merlin, the Grand Sorcerer, being an accomplice of Solomon was high. Then this demon world, could it be a Solomon's world, itself? Oh, ash grey. To be frank, the angels would want to side with our anti-coalition faction. And Solomon, too, wishes for Baal's death. We do not want a terrible massacre to take place. And since Baal has kidnapped the Angel of Time, it is not a bad thing for us, either. As long as Solomon does not go overboard in his actions, we, too, want this war to be over quickly. It was the coming to an understanding. The power that Myung holds. The divinity of Gabriel was real. In addition, there was also the justification of the Angel of Time, so they were rightfully confused. Myung turned his attention to Gremory. I'll return to the main subject again. That is, as to what would happen going forward. Although Gremory was maintaining her usual self, she couldn't fool Myung's eyes. She is flustered. She probably was thinking that she has taken a shot in the jaw. Furthermore, even Gremory was being confused about Myung's true identity. With this, Myung was guaranteed of a perfect spot. No demon god here could dismiss Myung, and they could not put restrictions on Myung's actions. The coming to an understanding. It was because they, too, will have the guarantee of living freely when Baal would be no more. What was remaining was the transcendental beings. The ones who were known as the transcendental entities. East, West, South, and North. They were the absolute beings, those which existed one in every one of the four directions, and even the demon gods could not dare to trespass. If they could be used, they would be the best hand. The problem was time. Fortunately, he was able to buy some time with this occasion. There was definitely a demon god, among the demon gods here, who has his foot on the side of the coalition faction. Perhaps, it could be all four, except Gremory. They would let the rumor percolate inside the coalition faction, and will inform them of the appearance of the Archangel. If that was to happen, even the powerful Baal would not be able to mobilize immediately. In the meantime, Bi Seungmin must act quickly. And Myung did not doubt that Bi Seungmin would be able to complete the tasks, which he had ordered, as quickly as possible. If only the transcendental beings could be brought to the same side, Myung would rise up as the ultimate one, and would be able to easily manage the anti-coalition faction. The future changes. He would right all the errors, which he had made, with his own hands. Myung's eyes shone brightly. Chapter 258. Chapter 253, The Transcendental Beings, 5. What would be the sacred race of the demon world? Based on what was known, it was the unicorn race. The flying white horses. As the unicorn's horn was used as an exorbitantly expensive ingredient for medicine and material for weapons, there were many who frantically sought it. However, discovering unicorns was like finding a needle in a haystack. It was because not only were there a very limited number of unicorns, they also had special abilities like hiding and remove presence. Furthermore, they were said to be so quick that it was nearly impossible to see them with your eyes. The saying that it would be safe to travel inside the demon world after catching a single unicorn had basis in fact. However, there was a truth that wasn't known by most. When in a group, the unicorns could create a separate space on their own. There, they lived and inhabited this special space as a group. However, most of the unicorns that gathered in a group were females. As a result, when they were in heat, they would leave the space and search for a male. Nay, would a dreamland be like this? Two gently rolling, verdant hills. A rainbow was over and in between the two hills. Only the unicorns lived where there was a flowing spring and wide, open grasslands. A black horse was there that especially caught attention. Although it had a horn and wings like the others, it was a being that had different characteristics from a unicorn. The magical power that was felt from it proved it was a being that was a monster of the highest rank. The Hell Horse. It was, originally, King Slayer's favorite horse. And it was also a present given to Muyong by King Slayer. However, after having met the unicorns, it left Muyong and came to this space where the unicorns lived in a group. And in here, the Hell Horse was living happily. Neighing. Neighing. As if displaying their charms, the unicorns gathered around the Hell Horse. The Hell Horse was a king around here. The hundreds of unicorns were all females, and as if they were captivated, they all followed the Hell Horse. Certainly, it was not an ordinary event. The number of Hell Horse's foals has already surpassed 10. For the most part, the foals of the Hell Horse were black, yet their horns remained white. Furthermore, sired with enormous powers, they were growing rapidly. To receive the seed of the Hell Horse, the unicorns tried their hardest. Offering up food as they saw fit, and they tried to captivate the Hell Horse with all their flirtatiousness. Neighing. The Hell Horse trotted heroically. As if the parting of the Red Sea was being recreated, the unicorns gave way. The Hell Horse stopped at a large boulder, where there were many rare medicinal herbs all around it. A 1,000-year-old mandragora, a rainbow plant that has been exposed to the moonlight for a long time, the king's flower that was known to grow by absorbing an entire forest's life force, and others. The unicorns were also known to search for these precious medicinal herbs to offer to a prospective mate. These were the legendary medicinal herbs that would increase the magical powers from just by consumption. As the Hell Horse was eating such herbs every day, it grew stronger each day. Even its symbol of malehood, in the center, did not show any signs of withering at all. The Hell Horse tilted its head just after it put a mandragora in its mouth. It was because something was slithering among the medicinal herbs. "You can't eat this much, woo-hee-hee." It even talked. The Hell Horse soon realized what it was. The almost transparent fairy. Upon seeing the playful face and the sting mark, the Hell Horse could think of only one being. Woo-hee. Why is the fairy, who should have been following Muyong around, in the unicorn's space? Thub. Thub. The Hell Horse tapped on Woo-hee's head with his chin. Even if it was a fairy, it was possible for a being, at the level of the Hell Horse, to provoke it as it pleased. Let me sleep for another 5 more minutes, Mom. Tug. Tug. A beautiful one sleeps a lot. Well, he needs to sleep some more. Tug. Tug. What the heck? Who the hell is it? Aggrieved, Woo-hee opened her eyes. Immediately, the face of the Hell Horse covered the entire vision of Woo-hee. Gah! What? You are that black horse. Since the name Hell Horse did not come to her mind, she just called it a black horse. However, she clearly remembered it. Neighing. Straightening out its mane, the Hell Horse raised its head high. As if to say who else could be the Hell Horse, other than him. Then is my dear husband here too? Well, he wants to see my dear hubby. The Hell Horse shook his head. This was the world and space for the unicorns. Muyong was not here. On the other hand, he was curious as to how Woo-hee had entered this space. How did I get in here? That was. Woo-hee lowered her head. Then she began to cry. Voh! I was chased by the wyverns. All that he did was entered where my dear husband's scent was. Then I entered a strange cave. Aong. Sniffle. In other words, she came to this place by following Muyong's scent. Even dogs would not have such sense of smell, so it could be looked on as a great feat. He blew her nose at the king's flower, the flower of flowers. The flower that had an entire forest's life force was now coated with Wuhi's nasal mucus. E/P, lol. Really, my dear husband is not here. Nodded. Why is he not here? Black horse. You are my dear husband's horse, right? Neighing. The hell horse raised its head even taller. Being called Muyong's horse did not sit well with him, it seemed. He was the king around here. Why would a king be underneath someone else? Chapter 259. Then do you know where my dear husband is? Black horse, well, he needs to go to my dear husband quickly. The hell horse shook his head again. It was possible to find out if he wanted to, but to do so, he needed to exit out of this space. Well, he became deflated again. I have to go to my dear husband. If not, my dear husband could be in danger. Neighing? Only then the hell horse showed some curiosity. At any rate, the king slayer said to diligently assist Muyong. However, as a matter of fact, even without his aid, that monster-like jerk would live as he pleased. As he became stronger each day, he should be able to even capture the demon gods. However, Wuhi's concern was sincere. Finally getting up from the place, Wuhi lowered her shoulders. Diablo was said to be a very dangerous demon god. Wuhi's mom said so. Ah, Wuhi's mom is the queen of the fairies? So, she knows a lot that even Wuhi doesn't know. The hell horse patiently kept his cool. It was an unspoken gesture, instructing her to continue to explain. So, you know what? It was strange that Diablo has been summoned. Diablo is a god that should not exist in the first place. So, unless he is destroyed as soon as possible, something called the end of the world will come. The end of the world. They were the words that signified the destruction of the world. The hell horse flared his nostrils. It did not have much to do with him. Whether the demon world was to be destroyed or not, all that he needed was to continue to live comfortably with all the unicorns. Without Wuhi and the one who summoned Diablo, it was said that my dear husband would not be able to defeat him. Ah, but Wuhi's dad also said something different. The most important issue was the Masters of Darkness. The reason for Diablo's ability to maintain himself was because he had eaten the Masters of Darkness or something. The Masters of Darkness. King Slayer was one of them. The true master of the Hell Horse. He was one of the Masters of Darkness, who had drowned in the darkness. Would Diablo even consider King Slayer as a prey? However, King Slayer was strong. Even the true gods could not provoke King Slayer. The Hell Horse knew that very well. So, the Masters of Darkness? It was said that there will be someone who will offer them up. If the darkness collapses with Diablo eating up the Masters of Darkness, there will be confusion in all dimensions? Well, he doesn't understand it well, but I guess it would lead to a disaster. The darkness was the final stop for the gods that could not become gods. Solomon kept several of such beings based on contracts. Even King Slayer was one of them. The Hell Horse stiffened up for a minute. Muyong was someone he thought wouldn't die even if he was killed. However, King Slayer was unexpectedly weak. Even though his power was nearly equivalent to the ordinary gods, he did have an experience of having fallen down into the darkness with despair. As he liked Muyong a lot and it had been a favor from King Slayer, the Hell Horse assisted Muyong for a while. In fact, the Hell Horse's concern was over King Slayer, rather than Muyong. So, well, he has to go find my dear husband. Black Horse. Well, he will be moving again. Goodbye. Well, he did not even ask for help. She had the sense of responsibility to carry it out on her own. Well, he wasn't that kind of a fairy to begin with. She had optimized skills in the areas of cunning and scheming, so that she could spend her time in comfort. That was her trait that even the hell horse knew, despite having spent only a few moments with her. Neighing. The hell horse stepped in front of Wuhi's way. Oh, black horse, do you mean to tell me I can ride you? Neighing. The hell horse loudly released air through its nostrils. Then, moved by that action, Wuhi began to tear up. Although she did not make it explicit, it must have been very hard on her for a long time. Thank you. Black horse. Wuhi got on the back of the hell horse. Neighing. Neighing. And as they were about to leave the space, hundreds of unicorns followed behind. Even the hell horse's matured foals begged to follow him. They, too, have sensed the aura of something important between the two. After a pause and consideration, the hell horse decided to mobilize in large number by leaving behind only the minimal number of them for the purpose of protecting this space and the children. It was the end of the dream-like moment in time that the hell horse had enjoyed. The earth tore itself, titanic fissures and rents appearing in a frenzy. The heavens reverberated, as if titanic, invisible beings were warring on each other. The great waves came, vast mountains of water, sweeping clean all before them. The forbidden magics were unleashed, warping the very fabric of space itself. The monsters that surrounded the castle died instantly. The monsters screamed as they ran off, and even the demon kings fled. A man, wearing an old cape, appeared at the top of the castle wall. I am Merlin, your protector and guide. Everyone in the big city had their eyes fixed on the man. There were easily over 1 million eyes. Ah! It's Merlin! Merlin, the grand sorcerer! Everyone knelt down on their knees in awe. And Oscar, the man who was wearing the face of Merlin, nervously swallowed his saliva. Well, B. Seungmin would take care of the rest himself, I'm sure. Chapter 260. The scenario that B. Seungmin had developed was playing out very well. Malalan was in the middle of a celebration. There were all sorts of events going on in the streets. Magic devices and weapons with miraculous powers, which were the stuff of legends, were on full display for everyone to see. The white owls were flying in the air, and the priests drew on the powers of gods, to make a spectacle, a celebration of fireworks. It was historic. No masters of Malalan, in any other times, have ever celebrated in such a scale. Everyone's face lit up happily. They played, forgetting all of their worries. Wow, so delicious! How could an apple pack such sweetness? B. Suzy had a happy smile after having bitten off a piece of a red apple. Quan Wang was next to her. Quan Wang sighed repetitiously. Should concentrate more on the training. This is celebration, celebration. If one does not enjoy it voluntarily, how can there be progress? Only if you couldn't speak. Ah! There's a Pierrot. Hi, please make me a balloon, too. Phew! B. Suzy ran after the Pierrot like a happy child. Of course, it was true that she was a child, but for Quan Wang, who wanted to teach her everything, it was somewhat deflating. Well, I guess she has already surpassed me. The speed with which B. Suzy moved up in strength was beyond one's imagination. Quan Wang has never seen such a human. She has already surpassed the level of Quan Wang, who was one of the humanity's 10 strong ones. And the reason for that strength was due to the lineage of light, the special skill that B. Suzy had. The lineage of light. By utilizing the skill that appropriately calibrated everything, B. Suzy has become capable of all things. Still, it is good. Her spirit is high again. B. Suzy had been feeling deflated after having met Myung and B. Seungmin. She was also angry because Quan Wang took her away without consent. As a result, she has been focused only on training as if she had no other choice, so it was good to see her feel happy again for the first time in a long while. It would start slowly. After some time has passed, Quan Wang went out to the square. There were already a countless number of people in the square. Everyone wanted to hear the Pope speak. To be exact, it would be the words of the god's vessel which the Pope would be relaying. Malalan was taken over by the god's vessel. She was the most likely one to have commissioned this celebration as well. They must be after her something. Quan Wang has years of experience. He did not think that such a celebration could have been planned overnight. There must be something behind this celebration. Tata-tata. The trumpets blew. The Pope. Long live the Pope! Everyone raised their hands. The Pope has come. And as always, there was Hyacinth, the god's vessel. Hyacinth, the vessel of God. Although she hasn't outgrown a girl's figure, a blinding charm was being permeating from her. There was nothing more to say about it, as she even made a puppet out of the Pope. My heart is pounding even by looking at her from this distance. Phew. Quan Wang reluctantly turned his head. It was so that he could only focus on the Pope. Wow, that woman is really pretty. Just like a doll. But she looks very familiar. Holding a lollipop that was as big as her head, B. Susie came running. B. Susie did not even shake at the power of the charm. Anything that has been categorized as evil power could not breach B. Susie's boundaries easily, and it was the same in this case, it seemed. Dear people of the Holy City, I hope you will enjoy today's celebration. The Pope began to speak. Then the anticipated speech has begun. Hray-ar. B. Susie unconsciously let out a long yawn. But she soon closed his mouth after drawing the attentions of others around her. Teacher, has the Pope been always very talkative like that? Then she discreetly whispered to Quan Wang. Quan Wang shook his head. The Pope was famous for not saying much. He only spoke of words that were needed to be said. However, the Pope spoke too much, today. Not long ago, 2 demon kings had invaded the great city. And Merlin had stopped them. Merlin. This story has already been spread throughout the Holy Empire. The Grand Sorcerer Merlin. People called him the Protector of the Green Temple. The Protector has personally come out into the world. Referencing him, the Pope wanted to set a course for the future. Although his words were long, there was only one conclusion. Our new holy city will follow the will of Merlin, and lead in overthrowing the demon gods. For every citizen in humanity. Why? It's a war. Quan Wang creased his forehead. Why a war all of a sudden? However, people did not have a shroud of doubt. They appeared to simply follow as what was being suggested. At this level, it appeared that everyone was under the influence of a group spell. Let's go. We should leave Malalan. It was not a good omen. Quan Wang said, but no reply came back. Thinking it as being odd, he looked around him, but B. Susie was nowhere to be found. Where has this rascal gone now?